So as I mentioned earlier, I wasn't one to really study, and playing the guitar was a love, and it was trying to emulate my heroes and just wanting to go out and play. And there's a certain feeling about playing. So technically, when I'm looking at the fretboard, I'm not seeing notes. It's familiar territory to me. It's what I hear. Um, I guess to me it seemed like rock and roll and blues. It You might want to develop a technique, but it wasn't about something that you would over practice or get very deep into theory about. I know that sometimes I've been in a situation where I might be creating something, and again, it's sort of what I might feel, what I might hear, what I've heard in the past from other influences. I'll hear a minor chord, and I don't start thinking about what notes might fit into that minor chord. It's just instinct of what I might. So I might just think about where I've been in that chord before, or there could be a melody in a song that influences when I start to solo where I might go on the fretboard. Again, I won't be thinking about the notes in that scale. And I can think of two situations where it was very funny. I was recording once with Sheryl Crow, and it was a song she had called "A Change Will Do You Good." And I had developed this little slide thing with it, and I think it was a George Harrison type of influence, the slide that I was playing. And I had this melody in my head that just came from hearing the song. And I remember sitting there and saying, okay, I got this idea. And I played this solo, and they stopped me and they said, it's great. But there's one note in there that's not right. And I said, what do you mean not right? And I said, well, for the chord, it's not fitting in the scale. And it was actually one of the notes that I happen to like. But Scott, Brian, and Sheryl Crow both said it should be a note flatter. And I can't remember what the note is now. But I changed that note, and they were very happy with it. And then, of course, things developed after that. They took my solo, and I worked on this I got this George Harrison sound and everything. And then they ran it through a fuzz box, and to me it sounded like a kazoo, but very interesting how those things happen in the studio. Another thing was a song that I have called Shame, and I was playing with a bass player at the time that seemed very rigid to me. He was a very schooled bass player, and great chops, and knew everything about technique and theory and everything else. And in the song, it's in D minor, there's a descending pattern in it where I go to a minor chord and then back to the root. And then he said to me, well, no, you can't play a minor chord there. In that scale, it has to be a major chord. And I'm saying, well, what I'm singing, I don't feel that chord. So, and then the other person that was in the room saying, no, it's his song. If he wants that song in a chord, it doesn't have to be. The other person said, I could hear it going with the melody or whatever it is. So sometimes it is just that instinct. It's something that I hear. Maybe it was a solo from the past that has an influence on the way I'm going to solo. Sometimes different keys, I'll have a different approach to playing. I might, in G, just play a little bit grindier, a little bit grittier. And I don't know if it was something that I got from Jeff Beck or something that I got from Eric Clapton. Maybe it was Eric Clapton used to do an old blues swing song called Steppin' Out. And he'd go off and solo on it, so maybe there was something about the way I approached the key of G from back then. But again, it'll depend on the song. It'll depend on the key, where I might go a certain direction. And definitely the melody has an influence on that if I'm soloing.